Hi, so you're probably aware of Final Fantasy and that it's a franchise with a number of games, each with different stories and characters to tell. It's not a continuation of a game series, which means you can start with any numbered Final Fantasy you want. I'm also a big fan of Final Fantasy XIV, an MMO game, and it's this game that got me really interested in playing the Final Fantasy games. I played games like the original 7, 7 Remake, 9 and 4, which were all entertaining in their own way. But the game I really wanted to play is the first Final Fantasy game. I didn't get to play the very first original game from the NES era, but I did get to play the Pixel Remastered port on PC and PlayStation. So this review will be the Pixel Remastered version. But I also know some of the gameplay changes from the original to this one. So this game starts with creating your own party setup with different characters and their classes. This is also one of the only Final Fantasy games to do this, as each game already has pre-established characters from the start. The story starts outside the kingdom of Cornelia, where we find out that Garland, a former knight of Cornelia, has kidnapped Princess Sarah. The four brave warriors of light travel to the Chaos Shrine to retrieve the princess, and this is where the plot begins. So on the way to the Chaos Shrine, we get to know the battle system. This game features random battles where you get to see your group against the creatures. It's a turn-based game, so the character in the top row gets to choose their attack first, with the bottom one being the last. It's quite simple as each character has an attack button, but the way this works is that you make your choices, then it plays out when each character has made their choices. However, there doesn't seem to be any speed stats, and it's more random who actually moves first. So any planning you wish to do may also fail if your plan doesn't match the RNG. While the warrior and thief don't get magic, the black and white mages do. But in normal JRPGs, the magic will be learned as you level up, but in this game you simply have to buy the magic you need in a magic shop. This will also help you find out how far you have progressed in the game, since the purchased magic is categorized into levels. 1 is the weakest spell, while 8 is the strongest. But you can only get 3 spells for each level. There are several options in battle. You can defend yourself to get half the damage you receive, or run if you need to get away from a strong monster, or just don't want to spend the time fighting. But also with a push of a button, you can use auto mode, which just means that the characters will automatically make the last choice you made and just use that. So to explain what I mean, if you had a white mage using cure as the last manual choice, auto mode will automatically use only cure until you manually stop it. And this also carries over to the next battle. There have been times when I've accidentally used auto mode as a reflex and then used cure unnecessarily. Although auto mode is good to have to speed up leveling, it's not exactly perfect. Firstly, the characters will attack from the top right row to the bottom left row. The problem with that, as an example, is that the warrior and thief can most likely one-shot each of their enemies, while the casters have to attack against the same enemy to hopefully take it down, and enabling auto mode removes that process. But then again, auto mode basically works like pressing a button to attack, so that just makes it more convenient to use. This game is also very easy if you don't pay attention to auto mode. Not once did I seriously struggle against any random battle or bosses. The only time I actually lost a battle was the last boss. But instead of grinding levels, I just did the battle again, but with different strategies. And to be honest here, I really don't mind it, as I did not even have to grind the levels to become super strong. Not only that, but I'm able to focus more on the story and the journey, without feeling like the story stops because of leveling up. So that's a plus for that. One thing I also found out later is that any armor or weapon that is not used due to it being below your own level, you can still use it as an item in battle. Each equipped items will have certain magical effects, and I find it very practical with some interesting strategies involved. I don't have a lot of footage of me using it since I figured it out later in the game, and I don't want to spoil the last boss since that's where I used it a lot. The game really looks incredibly nice. The pixel graphic looks really great, with cool and fascinating monster designs. The white and black mages are an iconic part of the Final Fantasy series and have been for many years. The magical sprite animation feels very smooth and beautiful to look at. The remastered versions of the soundtracks are really great to listen to, such as the bosses and random encounters. And the OST from the overworld is great with its sense of travel and journey. But the most iconic piece, the Final Fantasy tune, is synonymous with Final Fantasy, and it's a classic piece of music, and is made by the legend called Nobuo Uematsu. The story after Princess Sarah is pretty easy to follow. After the bridge is built and you get the boat next town over, you could travel anywhere if you can find a pier to anchor your boat at. The Warriors of Light go around to different towns and help them get the crystals to glow again. There are 4 different crystals that each Warriors of Light has. With those, the main crystals around the world will regain their former glory. The heroes here are silent protagonists, as in the Pokemon and Zelda series. And this means that you don't get much sense of who they are as individuals, since they are just characters whose whole purpose is to help and restore the crystals, and they don't have any kind of character development or arcs. However, it does help that you can name and choose the classes. This is probably one of the weakest Final Fantasy games for its story and characters that has come out, but the simple storytelling certainly helped, since now we have 16 Final Fantasy mainline games, with 2 of them being MMOs, 11 and 14, and now Final Fantasy has remastered the games from number 1 to 6. The story is not that long, since it only took me 10 plus hours to complete the game, which is quite short for a modern JRPG, as we have games like Persona that are 12 times as long or even more. I enjoyed the story, but there were a few moments where you had to search for the answer to do a certain action or event. But these answers are in-game if you talk to the NPCs, since they will hint you the instructions, but it's also okay to look it up. I don't quite know how to score them at first, whether to use a dice roll or 10 out of 10 points, but as a test, I would give it a 7 out of 10.